The kitties are sleeping. They both just went down for a nap. So I'm hoping, is this focused? I'm hoping that I can film my 1 year postpartum update for you. Oh my gosh, it's been 1 year. Cannot believe that it has been 1 year. Let me get a little more comfortable. So if you're brand new here, a little bit of backstory. I am a mom of 2. I have a toddler, a 3.5-year-old toddler who was born vaginally. I had a 4th degree tear and a rectal tear. And because of that traumatic birthing experience, my doctor and I decided to do a C-section with my almost 1-year-old Theodore. And that whole experience, like now reflecting back a year later, was so wild and like so starkly different than my first experience, mostly in the best way possible. C-sections are not easy. C-sections are glamorized. C-sections, people hear C-section like, oh, you took the easy way out, or you had an easy experience. Like, there's nothing easy about a C-section. In comparison to a 4th degree tear and my recovery from a 4th degree tear and a rectal tear, I will say the experience was easier than recovering from a 4th degree tear, but it definitely had its challenges, and there are still things in my body that even now I'm like, okay, that's still like a year out, still a little, you know, tender or a little bit off. But I don't think you can walk away from giving birth to a human completely the same. Like, I don't. If your body is completely exactly the same than before you had your child, then I don't know, more power to you. But I have not met anyone that fits that description, and I certainly do not. So yeah, 1 year later, my C-section scar it still looks great. No issues with my scar, which is fantastic. It still feels a little bit tender, but I talked a lot about how right above my scar there was about like maybe like a 2-inch by maybe like 5-6 inch strip above my C-section scar that felt really numb and tingly, and that was very off-putting in the beginning. I didn't realize like the nerve. My doctor explained to me like a lot of nerves get cut when they're doing a C-section, so you know, obviously as a result of that, things are going to feel a little weird and feel different, and nothing can like truly prepare you for that feeling. It's unsettling. It feels like a little weird, it feels a little icky. Luckily, I can report that a lot of the feeling has come back to that area right above my C-section scar. Guys, my C-section scar is so low. If you think of like low-rise bikini underwear, that's where my C-section scar is. It's so low. My doctor did such an amazing job. I'm so grateful. And right above there, that's the reason I can't show you the scar, because it's so low. But right above the scar feels almost back to normal. Like right where the scar is still feels tender, and I think that that's going to feel tender possibly forever, just because I don't know, it's got that feeling of like a scar, you know, that always feels a little bit off, but above it feels fine, and I don't have that like weird prickly, almost like numb feeling anymore, which is nice. In terms of everything else down there, I feel like everything else has healed pretty well. I didn't have to deliver vaginally, obviously, and so recovering in a vaginal sense was pretty straightforward and has been fine. Something that I did want to chat about, because I've mentioned it before, and I'm actually keeping very close track of my ovulation this cycle, and I'm going to share it with you guys if you want. I've been like keeping all the ovulation sticks that I've been taking, because hormonally this recovery has been really different than my recovery with Hugo. I don't remember my hormones being so up and down and all over the place with Hugo. I remember, you know, and who's to say, right? Like, it's so hard, especially after having a second baby. Like, your brain just like, it's hard for me to remember anything, truly anything, and especially with like waking up early and waking up in the middle of the night and stuff. And I'll talk a little bit about Theodore turning 1 and like his milestones at the end of this video, but he's doing really well with sleep, but having 2 kids is exhausting. So I don't know, you know, I I say that hormonally, but I just feel like hormonally this time, this postpartum experience was a lot more extreme than Hugo's. I didn't suffer from postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety, especially in the beginning. And that was the thing that like I thought was really interesting, and I mentioned in those early vlogs. I remember feeling after Theodore was born like this euphoric high, and I knew that it was hormonal. And like obviously after you have a baby, for some women, they feel like this immediate bond and this like immediate sense of like, I don't know, this like rush of positive hormones. And I felt that, like I felt that so hard, and that wasn't something I felt after Hugo. And I think it was because I had such a traumatic birthing experience with Hugo that I didn't feel that like euphoric high. But because everything was so controlled and was like exactly how I wanted it with Theodore, I think my body like was able to like release those amazing like feel-good hormones for a long time. And I just remember feeling so good after I had my C-section for months after. And then it was around like I want to say like 6 months when life started getting like super real, and that when my hormones started dipping. And that was like give or take the around the time that I had stopped breastfeeding Theodore on my actual breast and was pumping. And I'm sure like the stress of exclusively pumping, like let me just go on the record by saying like exclusively pumping is the worst. It's just the worst. And if you exclusively pumped, then you know, you feel me, it sucks. So I think that contributed too. But like once that 6-month mark hit, from like 6 months to I want to say 10 months, that period was really hard. Like I had some dark days in there, and some days where like I didn't want to get out of bed. I did, and I had to, but like just days where I just felt so down and like so low. And I knew I could recognize, thankfully I could recognize that like feeling that low wasn't normal as well. Like feeling that high that I did after Theodore was born, I knew like wasn't my normal. And feeling that low, I knew wasn't my normal. And I knew that it was just the hormonal roller coaster, and that like I just needed to ride it out. And like had I felt that low for an extended period of time, then I would have like contacted my doctor and gotten help and stuff like that. But it was very much so like a 24 hours at a time sort of thing. Like I would wake up and there would be a day where I would just feel awful and depressed and anxious and like didn't want to do anything, and then the next day I would wake up and feel fine, and then the next day after that I would feel bad again, and then the next day I would be fine, and then maybe have a couple days of being fine, and then a couple days of feeling bad. And like that went on for about 3 to 4 months, and that was just frustrating, obviously, because I could feel in my body these hormone surges and just feel like it feels very uncomfortable to not feel like you have a grasp on your own emotions, or like your own lens at which you like look out and perceive the rest of the world. And when it's your hormones, like there's no affirmation or like positive blurb that you can read that is going to get you out of that, because it's not in your control, if that makes sense. So that was probably postpartum recovery wise over this entire year, that was the hardest, not the physical. That was the hardest thing to sort of like come out the other side of. And I can confidently say now at, you know, nearly, Theodore turns 1 on Thursday. So I think I'm gonna post this on Wednesday. He turns 1 tomorrow. So at pretty much 1 year postpartum, I can say that I feel like I'm on the other side of that hormonally. I feel very leveled out. I feel very like clear-headed. And again, if you've gone through that like hormonal fog of postpartum, you know what I mean. Like everything feels like dampened by your hormones. And I can say like I feel like I'm on the other side of that, which is really nice. But what is strange is my cycle has been a little out of whack, especially the past few months. I think I got my cycle back, was it 8 months postpartum? Since I've gotten it back, I've had a few like quote unquote normal cycles. My cycles are usually around 26 days. Before I had Theodore, like I would say maybe the year leading up to Theodore, us trying for Theodore, my cycle was so normal, like so almost like eerily predictable. Like it just ran its course. My period was 4 days long. My ovulation happened on like, I think it was either, it was day 12, day 11 or 12. It was just completely consistent. And that being said, like obviously that year before we tried for Theodore, when we tried for Theodore, Hugo was 2. And so that was like plenty of time for my body to heal and for my cycle to like balance itself back out. And so I think I'm putting like a weird what's the word, like unrealistic expectation on my cycle for it to be like completely back to normal 12 months postpartum, because I just think that like for my body isn't happening. But this last cycle was really strange. It was only 22 days long, which I thought was so bizarre. And then my period itself was 8 days long, which for me is double the length. Usually my period is 4, maybe 5 days. And for the past couple cycles, it's been like 6, and then this past cycle was 8. So today I took an ovulation test and it is peak ovulation. So like, at least I know that my LH is surging, like I should be ovulating like normal. And that's all just to say, like the reason, well, one, like just hormonally, I like to be on top of what's happening in my own body and like my own cycle and stuff. But obviously I feel like I've mentioned it in a lot of my videos. I've had baby fever like the entire time, like since Hugo was born. And again, maybe that's hormonal, I don't know. Maybe it's just because Theo is the perfect baby. He's just perfect. And so I'm like, I want more perfect babies. Hugo was perfect too. All babies are perfect, but you know what I mean. Like the year, though it had its moments, overall, and like I'm looking back with rose colored glasses, but the year was great, and it went by so fast. So fast. I can't believe it. And I'm so grateful that I was able to have the birthing experience that I wanted. I don't think this past year would have been as easy as it was if I didn't have that like very empowering birthing experience. And I know for a lot of people, C-sections are not their first choice, but I'm so grateful that I had a C-section, and I'm so grateful that it went the way it did and that recovery was so great. And I was talking to my doctor the last I saw her for just a routine checkup maybe 3 months ago, and we were chatting about my recovery and just, you know, life. And I had said at the time we were unsure about some Jeff job stuff, and I was saying how like, you know, it's possible we might have to move. And you know, I think now 3 months later, I don't think that that's a possibility, but at the time I was just chatting with her about it. And she's, you know, I said, oh, like I really want you to do my like next C-section, because if I have another baby, I would definitely go the C-section route. And she said, you know, I left a really nice blueprint there, right? Like you have the C-section scar, the doctor would know exactly where to go, and like you would be good. So that was really comforting. But I do, like, fingers crossed, hopefully she would be able to do my next one. And what else? In terms of postpartum, my hair is finally growing back, guys. It's so funny, postpartum hair loss, like you see the chunks coming out of your hair in the shower, when you brush your hair. Just like for me, randomly, like I'll just, you know, hair will just be falling out, it'll be everywhere. But what I don't notice is all the hair loss that happens here. So I guess I lose a lot of hair here, because what I noticed now at like a year postpartum, when I put my hair up, is a lot of this is growing back, is regrowth, which is great. Like I'm so happy that that's growing back. I didn't even really realize that it was gone, I guess. But all this here is regrowth. So yeah, I'm grateful that it's growing back. I just chopped a lot of it off, which felt really nice. For me, this is like definitely a mom haircut. I haven't had my hair this short in a really long time, but having 2 kids is no joke, and I completely forgot. Yeah, I forgot. I guess I either forgot or like maybe Hugo wasn't as grabby, but Theo is very grabby. He like loves pulling at my hair. My hair is usually never down. It's usually always up in a bun, like a messy bun, and luckily I can still put it up. But yeah, the hair regrowth has been a little wild. I definitely noticed postpartum. Well, I noticed throughout my pregnancy my teeth shifting and moving and changing a lot. And then postpartum, if you've been following just like my regular vlogs, finally went to the dentist, got my teeth fixed, got all like my cavities filled and all that stuff. I've been taking really good care of my teeth now, but I've noticed that there's been some big shifting and changing, so I'm excited to start my aligners. I'm working with Byte, which is really exciting, and so I feel like I am slowly but surely like getting back, not getting back to myself, because I don't want to go backwards ever. Like, I love where I am now, and I love this like season of my life, but I feel really good like where I am. I've definitely lost all the postpartum, not the postpartum, I've definitely lost like all the what do they call it, pre-baby weight, post-baby weight, pregnancy weight. Yes, okay, there we go. I've definitely lost all the pregnancy weight, which for me is always just a lot of water weight and just like a lot of weight around, sorry, I just kicked the table and my camera shaked. It's always like a lot of weight around my hips and my thighs, and honestly I haven't really been doing anything out of the ordinary. I have not been working out regularly. It's just, for me, it naturally falls off over the course of the year, and especially now as Theodore becomes more mobile. My 3.5-year-old is, you know, a 3.5-year-old. I'm chasing around 2 little boys all day. It falls off. And so like I said, like, it's not something that I've been paying much mind to, but I've definitely noticed like, oh, I'm fitting into all my clothes, I'm fitting into all my pants. I'm still like, today I'm wearing maternity leggings just because they're so comfortable, and like we have so much laundry that needs to like get folded and put away. But I'm in all my like pre-pregnancy clothes again. Like, it is what it is, but yeah, I just feel like I'm sort of, again, like not back to myself, I guess back to myself. Like I definitely feel like I'm stepping out of the postpartum stage and like closing out that chapter. And now when it comes to Theo, it's so sad because he's such a big boy now, and it goes by so fast. And if you would have told me postpartum, like especially during those first 5 months with Hugo, that period was going to go by quickly, like I wouldn't have, I hated hearing that, because it did not feel that way. But the second baby, like at least for me, has been so different. It went by so fast. Theo grew so fast, and it was so wild having like an older child next to this little baby, because it's like the baby grows and you blink and the baby is 1, but then like your older child has grown too, so it's like you just really feel time like slipping out of your fingers. But yeah, Theo is, I can't believe he's like exiting the baby phase and entering the toddler phase. I'm not rushing it, like he's still my little baby right now, but he has started, I'm gonna say walking. He can't walk consistently without falling yet, but he took his first few steps, I want to say it was around 11 months. Like, I think it was either a day or 2 before he turned 11 months or a day or 2 after he turned 11 months. He started taking his first steps, and now he can take steps unassisted from like, you know, place to place sort of thing, or if he sees me in the kitchen, he can sort of take a few unassisted steps over to me. And I was saying to Jeff, I think in about a week he will be just like flat out walking. And he started standing up unassisted really close to when he just like took off and started walking. Like, it all happened really, really quickly. We are going to wean him off formula in the next day or 2 once we finish out the cartridge of formula back there. So throughout the past, I would say, I think it was 6 months, we've been giving him Earth's Best organic formula when we finally like made the transition off of the Kendamil, and which feels like a million years ago. Oh my gosh, even just saying Kendamil out loud just like brought me back. Wow, that's crazy. So he's been drinking that. We're gonna wean him off that. We are probably going to give him Ripple milk, which is what we've been giving Hugo since he turned 1. We always have a really good stash of that here. And Theodore has his 1-year checkup with the doctor on Friday, so we'll get like all his stats and stuff on Friday. But yeah, he's a big boy. He's been saying like babbling, and he will like, if you ask him to say moo, he'll say or if you ask him to say mama, he has said mama a couple times. His first word, I think, is going to go on the record as being dada, because he can and more consistently has said dada than mama. Maybe he said mama like once or twice, but he's definitely babbling a lot, gesturing too. Like he won't like point with his finger, but he'll sort of like reach toward things with his arms, and it's just, he's just sort of like, you can see all of these gears turning in his little head all the time, and he's like realizing things, and he'll be on the changing table and just like looking at his arms and looking at his hands, like moving them, and it's so wild and so magical. So yeah, it's been quite the year. And as I was like thinking about sitting down and making this video, I was like, I sound like a broken record, but I can't believe it's been a year. I really can't. And we had a little birthday party for Theodore this past weekend. We just had my family over, and we printed out a bunch of pictures from the past year, and it feels like I blinked and he went from being this like tiny little newborn, and just like rethinking about all of like the tongue tie issues we had, and breastfeeding, and then exclusively pumping, which felt like it was never going to end, to transitioning him from the snoo to the crib, to him crawling and then standing and walking, and like, and now he's eating food and taking unassisted steps and playing and wrestling with his little big brother, and he's just like his own person, and that's so wild. So I am definitely soaking up, oh, I see him moving on the monitor, I am soaking up every single second of his like little baby self as I possibly can, because I know I will blink and he will be 3.5, he will be as big as Hugo is, you know, like it all just goes by so quickly. So yeah, that is my 1 year postpartum update, as well as Theodore's little like 1 year update too. If you have any questions, specific questions, postpartum questions, definitely leave them down in the comments and I will be sure to get to them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys. Oh, I'll show you my belly, just to make that a bit of a tradition. So like I said, I'm wearing maternity pants. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell, my scar is so low. I still have that line here though. I don't know if that's ever gonna go away, to be honest. The other side. So amazing, like what the human body can do. I just am always in such awe. But yeah, that's my postpartum belly. Okay guys, and that's it. Thank you so much for all your love and support over the past year, during my pregnancy with Theo, for some of you who have been here for years and years. Thank you. I love you all, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.